The Whispers of Atheria, a fantasy sleep story presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. In the heart of Atheria, where the ancient world still breathed with a soft, silvery sigh, lived a magic unlike any other. It wasn't the booming, crackling kind of magic that wizards spun in tales, nor the sharp, brilliant gleam of enchanted swords. No, the magic of Atheria was woven into the very fabric of existence, a gentle humming presence known only as the Whispers. The Whispers were the songs of the sun as it spilled gold across the dew-kissed meadows, the lullaby of the moon as it painted silver on the sleeping rivers, the rustle of invisible wings through the deepest forests, and the secret murmur of roots beneath the earth. They were the reason the sky whispers, those delicate, luminescent moths, glowed like scattered starlight, and why the ancient heartwood trees pulsed with a faint, warm light in their deepest chambers. They were why the water lilies on the glass lake sang with tiny, crystalline voices at dawn, and why, if you listened very, very closely on the stillest nights, you could hear the very stars breathing. For generations beyond counting, the people of Atheria had lived in harmony with these soft, unseen currents. They understood that the Whispers were the breath of their world, the gentle magic that kept the colors vibrant, the air sweet, and the spirit of all living things alight. Children learned to distinguish the joy hum of a contented honeybee from the dream drift of a sleeping river, and elders taught the young to honor the root song of the forests, for it was the oldest and wisest of all the Whispers. In the quiet, winding lanes of Willow Creek, a village nestled beside the ancient heartwood forest, lived a girl named Elara. Elara was not like the other children, who often chased fireflit sprites or built dams in the Sundapple stream. Elara preferred to sit beneath the sprawling branches of the elder willow at the edge of her garden, her small hands resting on its gnarled bark, listening. She heard things others didn't, the sigh of the wind through the leaves that wasn't just wind, but the tree itself telling old stories, the faint chime of the morning dew settling on spiderwebs like 1,000 tiny bells, the deep, resonant pulse of the earth beneath her bare feet. Her grandmother, Elara's only living family, often watched her from the kitchen window, a soft smile playing on her lips. "That girl," Grandmother Lyra would murmur, stirring her herbal teas, "she hears with more than just her ears." Grandmother Lyra, with her silver hair woven into intricate braids and eyes the color of warm honey, understood Elara's quiet ways. She too had a special connection to the Whispers, though not as profound as her granddaughters. Lyra could feel the general mood of the land, predict the coming of a gentle rain by the shift in the air's hum, or find the ripest sunberries by their particularly joyful glow. But Elara seemed to grasp the very nuances, the delicate shifts in tone and rhythm that most would miss entirely. Elara's favorite place was a small hidden grove deep within the heartwood forest, a place she called the Glade of Soft Shadows. It was here, where ancient moss-covered stones formed natural seats and wildflowers bloomed in impossible shades of blue and purple, that the Whispers felt strongest. Here, the heartwood trees, towering giants whose bark felt like warm living skin, pulsed with a rhythm that vibrated through the very air. The moss on the ground shimmered with a soft internal light, and tiny iridescent beetles skittered across the leaves, leaving trails of faint starlight. It was a place where Elara felt truly alive, truly herself, and where the world sang its most beautiful songs just for her. She would spend hours there, her eyes closed, simply absorbing the symphony of the glade. She knew the gentle sleep song of the glade spiders as they spun their luminous webs, the growth hum of the budding ferns, and the deep reassuring heartbeat of the ancient trees themselves. These were the Whispers, the invisible threads of magic that bound Atheria together, nurturing every living thing, from the smallest moss mite to the grandest heartwood. But lately, something had changed. It had begun subtly, so subtly that at first, Elara thought it was merely her imagination, a trick of the light or a passing mood. The joy hum of the honeybees seemed a little less bright, a little more muted. The dream drift of the river carried a faint undercurrent of something akin to unease. The sky Whispers, which usually danced in swirling constellations of light after dusk, now seemed to drift more aimlessly, their glow a little fainter, a little less vibrant. At first, Elara dismissed it. Perhaps the weather was changing, or the season was shifting in an unusual way. But as the days turned into weeks, The subtle shifts became more noticeable, more persistent. The luminous moss in her beloved glade of soft shadows didn't shimmer with the same intensity. The iridescent beetles' trails of starlight were shorter, less brilliant. Even the ancient heartwood trees, whose deep heartbeat had always been a steady, comforting presence, now seemed to pulse with a faint, almost hesitant rhythm. It was as if the colors of the world were being subtly faded, the music of existence turned down, note by note. One crisp morning, Atheria set out for the glade of soft shadows, a knot of worry tightening in her stomach. The sun-dappled stream, usually a lively cascade of sparkling water and cheerful gurgles, flowed with a melancholic sigh. The water lilies on the glass lake, which should have been singing their crystalline dawn chorus, were silent. Their petals, usually a vibrant, almost impossibly translucent white, now had a faint grayish tinge. When she reached the glade, her heart sank. The vibrant blue and purple wildflowers, once so vivid they seemed painted with magic, were now duller, their petals drooping slightly. The shimmering moss, her beloved source of gentle light, barely glowed at all, only a faint, almost imperceptible glimmer remaining. And the heartwood trees, they felt different. The warmth, the deep, resonating pulse that had always filled the glade, was diminished. It was still there, a whisper of what it once was, but it felt distant, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Atheria knelt beside a patch of once luminous moss, tracing its now dull surface with her finger. She closed her eyes, trying to reach out with her inner ear, to hear the root song of the forest, the growth hum of the plants, the sleep song of the tiny creatures. But the vibrant symphony was gone, replaced by a quiet, almost mournful hush. The whispers were fading. They weren't gone entirely, but they were retreating, like a tide pulling back from the shore, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy and wrong. A tear pricked Atheria's eye. This was her sanctuary, her world. To feel its magic dimming, its very life force weakening, was like watching a beloved friend slowly fade away. She spent the rest of the morning trying to coax a stronger glow from the moss, humming her own soft tunes, sharing her own small warmth. But it was no use. The moss remained stubbornly dim, the glade remained unusually quiet. She returned home that evening, her shoulders slumped, her usual bright curiosity replaced by a quiet despair. Grandmother Lyra, who was tending to her moon-petal garden, noticed immediately. "Atheria, child, what troubles you?" she asked, her voice soft as velvet. "The glade. It's not right, grandmother," Atheria whispered, her voice barely audible. "The whispers are fading. Everything is quieter, duller." Grandmother Lyra's usually serene face creased with concern. She knelt beside Atheria, taking her small cold hands in her own. "I have felt it too, little star. Not as keenly as you, perhaps, but the air has lost some of its sweetness. The moon petals bloomed late this year, and their light is not as strong." She sighed, a deep, weary sound. "The elders, they speak of a time long, long ago, when the whispers faltered once before. A time of great quiet, they called it. A time when the colors drained from the world, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath." Atheria looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. "What happened, grandmother? How did they bring the whispers back?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "The stories are vague, child, spoken in hushed tones, almost as if the telling itself might awaken the quiet once more. They say a great darkness had fallen, a shadow that muted all magic. And then a small spark of hope ignited. A single voice, pure and true, rediscovered the forgotten melodies, and wove them back into the fabric of Atheria." She paused, her gaze distant, lost in the mists of time. But what those melodies were, or who that voice belonged to, is lost to us now. The details faded with the generations, becoming just a legend, a warning. Atheria's mind raced. A single voice. Forgotten melodies. Could Shay be that voice? She had always heard the whispers more clearly than anyone. Perhaps if she listened even harder, if she went further, deeper, she could find the source of the fading, and somehow help bring the music back. "We must do something, grandmother," Atheria insisted, her small voice imbued with a newfound determination. "We can't let Atheria go quiet." Grandmother Lyra smiled sadly, stroking Atheria's hair. I wish I knew what, my dear. I have tried all the old ways. I have sung the root songs of the elder willow. I have offered the moon-petal dew to the sky whispers. I have whispered the ancient prayers to the glass lake. But the quiet persists. She looked at her granddaughter, a spark of hope flickering in her own eyes. Perhaps it is not an old way that is needed, Elara. Perhaps it is a new one, or a forgotten one. That night, Elara lay awake in her soft, moss-filled bed, listening. The familiar chirps of the night-glow crickets were faint, almost mournful. The gentle rustle of the leaves outside her window, usually a soothing lullaby, was now a restless sigh. The air itself felt thin, less vibrant. The silence in between the sounds was vast, a growing emptiness where the rich tapestry of the whispers used to be. She thought of the glade of soft shadows, its dimmed beauty, its quiet sorrow. She thought of Grandmother Lyra's words, a single voice, pure and true, rediscovered the forgotten melodies. Elara knew in her heart that she couldn't simply sit by and watch Atheria fade. She had to find those melodies. She had to understand why the whispers were retreating. The next morning, Elara rose before the sun, a small satchel packed with dried sunberries, a flask of fresh spring water, and a smooth, river-worn listening stone that Grandmother Lyra had given her years ago. The stone, Lyra had said, could help one hear the earth's secrets if one listened with an open heart. She left a note for Grandmother Lyra, pinned to the kitchen table with a cluster of faded moon petals. I am going to find the forgotten melodies. Don't worry, I will be careful. I will bring the whispers home. Stepping out into the pre-dawn chill, Elara took a deep breath. The air, though thinner than usual, still carried the faint scent of pine and damp earth. The sky whispers were just beginning to appear, their glow a faint pale blue against the deepening indigo sky. They drifted past her, hesitant, almost shy. I will find it, Elara whispered to them, her voice a promise. I will bring back your light. Her journey began on the well-worn path that led deeper into the heartwood forest, beyond the familiar turns and groves. This was the wilder part, the domain of ancient roots and shadowed pathways, where the heartwood trees grew thicker, taller, their branches intertwining to form a living canopy that rarely let the full sun through. The path was less defined here, overgrown with luminous ferns and thick moss. As she delved deeper, the silence grew. The gentle rustle of leaves was replaced by an almost unnerving stillness. The air, once filled with the subtle hum of forest life, was now heavy, muted. Even the light seemed different, dimmer, as if the very essence of color was being leached from the world. The glowing moss, which should have illuminated the path, offered only the faintest, ghost-like gleam. Elara clutched her listening stone, its smooth surface cold against her palm. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to attune herself to the forest's heartbeat, but all she felt was a distant, slow thrum, like a drum played far, far away. It was a mournful sound, a lament for what was being lost. She knew she had to go beyond the familiar, beyond what was visible. The whispers were not just sound, they were feeling, color, light, life. If they were fading, then the source of their magic must be weakening or hidden. She remembered the old stories of the sunken glade, a place whispered about by the elders, a place so ancient and steeped in magic that it was said to be the very heart of Atheria's power, a place where the whispers originated. No one had ventured there in generations, for the path was said to be perilous, guarded by illusions and forgotten magic. But if the whispers were fading, then perhaps the sunken glade was where she needed to go. The path ahead grew increasingly difficult. Twisted roots, thick as a grown man's arm, snaked across the forest floor, tripping hazards cloaked in dim moss. The trees here were truly immense, their canopies so dense that patches of starlight moss grew on their bark even during the day, struggling to provide what little light they could. Elara found herself pushing through tangles of glowing vines, their luminescence now a pale, sickly green. She felt a strange pull, a subtle tugging sensation in her chest, guiding her deeper. It wasn't a whisper she could hear with her ears, but a faint echo, a memory of a stronger magic, drawing her onward. It was the faintest trail of the whispers, leading her to their source or perhaps to where they had gone to hide. Hours passed. The dim light of the forest gave way to an even deeper gloom. Elara knew she was far beyond the familiar parts of the heartwood. The air grew colder, and a faint mist began to swirl around her ankles, clinging to the ancient trees. She could no longer hear the distant chirps of any creature, only the sound of her own breathing, and the soft, crunching sound of her boots on the mossy ground. Then, through the swirling mist, she saw it. Not a path, but a shimmering curtain of light, pulsating with a faint ethereal glow. It looked like water, but it hung vertically in the air, swirling like a slow-motion waterfall. It was too beautiful to be natural, too magical to be anything but an ancient enchantment. This, she knew, must be one of the illusions spoken of in the legends. A guardian of the way. Atheria approached cautiously, her heart thumping. The shimmering curtain seemed to hum with a low, resonant note, a single sustained whisper that felt ancient and powerful. It was unlike any whisper she had heard before, deeper, more profound, and yet also tinged with a great sadness. She reached out a hesitant hand, expecting to feel solid air, or perhaps a chilling dampness. Instead, her fingers passed through the shimmering light, as if it were nothing but mist. A wave of dizziness washed over her as she stepped through. The world spun for a moment, a kaleidoscope of soft colors and fading sounds, then settled. She found herself standing in a place even more ancient, even more profoundly quiet than anywhere she had been before. The trees here were unlike any she had seen, their bark like polished stone, their leaves a deep, shimmering violet. And everywhere, a soft, pervasive twilight, as if the sun had forgotten how to fully rise in this place. Before her, the ground sloped gently downwards, leading into a deep, misty hollow. And from the very bottom of that hollow, Atheria could just discern a faint, almost imperceptible glow. It was the weakest whisper she had ever felt, a mere ghost of a presence, but it was there. And it was calling to her. This, she realized with a growing sense of awe and trepidation, was the way to the sunken glade. She took a deep breath, clutching the listening stone. Her journey was far from over. The real mystery of the fading whispers she knew was only just beginning to unfold. She had to find the heart of this quiet, and somehow, sing the forgotten melodies back to life. She took a deep breath, clutching the listening stone. Her journey was far from over. The real mystery of the fading whispers she knew was only just beginning to unfold. She had to find the heart of this quiet, and somehow, sing the forgotten melodies back to life. The faint, silvery glow emanating from her listening stone deepened, drawing her onward. It wasn't a light that banished shadows, but rather one that made them shimmer with hidden depths, inviting her gaze rather than repelling it. The path beneath her feet, once a familiar trail of damp earth and fallen leaves, began to change. The trees grew taller, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards a sky that seemed perpetually twilight, even though the sun had long since set. Their bark, normally rough and gray, now pulsed with a faint internal luminescence, as if ancient sap flowed with captured starlight. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth, rich moss, and something else, something ancient and still, like a forgotten dream. The very ground became softer, almost springy beneath her boots, carpeted with mosses of an impossible emerald hue, threaded with tiny bioluminescent fungi that pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. No birds sang here, no rustle of small creatures broke the profound quiet. Even the wind, which usually carried the distant murmur of the world's song, seemed to hold its breath. This wasn't merely a quiet forest. It was a place where silence itself had taken root and blossomed. Atheria found herself moving with a new kind of reverence, each step gentle, as if she feared disturbing the delicate balance of this hushed realm. The glow from her stone, her steadfast guide, now pulsed with a more insistent rhythm, tugging her deeper. She passed through groves where ancient, gnarled trees, their forms twisted into shapes that whispered of forgotten stories, stood like silent sentinels. Their leaves, broad and glossy, reflected the faint glow, creating a dizzying kaleidoscope of green and silver. She felt no fear, only a profound sense of wonder and a deep-seated empathy for the quiet that permeated everything. She knew instinctively that this quiet was not empty, but full of untold magic, of slumbering power, of melodies waiting to be remembered. After what felt like hours, though time seemed to lose its meaning in this place, the forest began to thin. The gnarled trees gave way to towering, slender silver birches, their bark like polished moonlight. Before them, a shimmering mist hung in the air, a veil that pulsed with the same faint luminescence as the listening stone. It wasn't cold, nor was it damp, but rather felt like a breath of cool, pure air, infused with the scent of dew-kissed petals and distant starlight. Taking another deep breath, Ilara walked towards the mist. As she stepped through it, the world twisted and reformed around her. The silver birches vanished, replaced by a sight that stole her breath and rooted her to the spot. She had arrived. This was the sunken glade. It wasn't sunken beneath water, but rather nestled in a vast bowl-shaped hollow in the earth, as if a giant hand had scooped out a perfect secret sanctuary. The edge of the hollow was lined with colossal, ancient stones, each one etched with swirling patterns that seemed to shift and dance in the faint light, like frozen currents of magic. The floor of the glade itself was a tapestry of luminous mosses, soft as velvet, that glowed with an ethereal, inner light, casting long, gentle shadows. In the very center of this magnificent hollow stood a tree. But to call it merely a tree felt like a disservice. It was a titan, a monolith of living wood that dwarfed everything around it. Its trunk was wider than Ilara's cottage, its bark a tapestry of deep greens, browns and faint, glowing silver lines that traced ancient veins of magic. Its branches, thick as lesser trees, reached outward and upward, forming a vast, natural dome that seemed to hold the sky itself. From these branches hung delicate, bell-shaped blossoms of pure light, each one shimmering with a soft internal radiance, yet producing no sound. It was the most majestic, heart-breakingly beautiful thing Ilara had ever seen. This, she knew with a certainty that resonated deep within her bones, was the heartwood tree, the ancient source of the world's song, and the heart of this profound quiet. Yet, despite its breathtaking beauty, a profound sorrow permeated the glade. The air, while pure, felt heavy with a sense of loss, a yearning for something forgotten. The heartwood tree itself, for all its magnificence, seemed to be holding its breath. There was no rustle of leaves, no hum of life, no faint whisper of its ancient song. It was utterly, completely silent. As Ilara took a hesitant step further into the glade, the listening stone in her hand pulsed with a stronger, more urgent rhythm, almost vibrating with a faint, sympathetic hum. It was then that she noticed them. Scattered around the base of the heartwood tree, like fallen stars, were dozens of smooth, crystalline stones. They were not dull or opaque, but rather shimmered with an inner fire, catching and reflecting the glade's soft light. They looked like frozen tears, or perhaps silent bells. As she drew closer to the heartwood tree, a shimmering, almost invisible ripple moved through the air beside her. It was so faint she might have missed it, had her senses not been sharpened by the magic of the glade. The ripple coalesced, slowly, gently, like mist gathering into form until it stood before her. It was a creature of pure light, woven from the glade's own essence. Its form was vaguely humanoid, slender and graceful, but translucent, like a being made of moonlight and shimmering air. Its eyes, twin pools of deep, knowing indigo, held an ancient sorrow, yet also an unwavering hope. It had no mouth, yet Ilara felt words form in her mind, clear as the purest spring water. "Welcome, Whisperer. We have awaited you." Ilara felt no surprise, only a deep sense of rightness. "You are a lumen spirit," she whispered aloud, her voice sounding impossibly loud in the profound silence. The lumen spirit inclined its luminous head. "I am Lyra. I am the echo of the heartwood, the memory of its song, or rather, what remains of it." Its form flickered, as if a gentle breeze had passed through it. "The quiet deepens as you have witnessed. The world's song, which flows from the heartwood, falters, life dims, even we, the children of its light, fade." Lyra gestured with a delicate, luminous hand towards the colossal tree. "The heartwood tree does not die, Whisperer. It sleeps. A deep, profound slumber born of a forgotten sorrow. Its song, the very symphony that weaves life and vibrancy into the world, has scattered like stardust on a silent wind." Ilara looked up at the majestic, silent tree, then back at Lyra. A forgotten sorrow. What kind of sorrow could silence such a magnificent being? Lyra's indigo eyes seemed to deepen with ancient pain. "A sorrow born of disconnect, of forgotten bonds. For generations the children of the world sang with the heartwood, their joys and laments echoing through its roots, adding new verses to its eternal song. But as the ages turned, the echoes faded. The people grew distant, their own songs turning inward, forgetting to lend their voices to the grand symphony. The heartwood, lonely in its immense wisdom, slowly, gently began to withdraw. It didn't a day. Elara's heart ached with understanding. The fading whispers, the growing quiet, it wasn't an attack or a blight. It was a withdrawal, a gentle sigh of profound sadness from the very core of existence. But the forgotten melodies, Elara said, clutching her listening stone. The whispers I felt, the faint glow, they were leading me here. What must I do? Lyra turned and drifted towards the crystalline stones surrounding the heartwood tree. These are the heart gems, she projected into Elara's mind. They are the vocal cords of the heartwood, the resonators of its song. But they are also keepers of its memories, of the fragments of its slumbering melody. When the heartwood began its long sleep, its grand symphony did not simply vanish. It fractured, splintering into countless echoes, each one a memory, a note, a verse of its glorious past. These fragments lie dormant with... Elara looked at the glowing stones with new reverence. So, I must awaken these fragments, sing them back into being. Precisely, Whisperer, Lyra affirmed, her form brightening slightly with a spark of renewed hope. Your gift, your unique connection to the world's song, allows you to hear the faintest echoes. The listening stone guides you to the strongest fragments. You must attune yourself to each heart gem. Listen for the dormant melody within, and then with your own voice, sing it back to life. Each awakened fragment will rekindle a part of the heartwood's slumbering spirit, stirring it closer to wakefulness. Lyra drifted to one of the closest heart gems, a large, multifaceted crystal that pulsed with a dull inner glow. This one holds the first memory, a whisper of the glade's dawn. It is a simple foundational note, yet vital. Place your hand upon it and let your heart listen. Elara, her hands trembling slightly with awe and determination, approached the heart gem. Its surface was cool and smooth beneath her palm, yet she felt a faint warmth, like a sleeping ember. She closed her eyes, focusing her entire being, letting her whisperer senses stretch out, reaching into the very core of the stone. At first, there was only the profound quiet, the same silence that permeated the entire glade. But Elara pushed deeper, guided by the insistent hum of her listening stone, which now vibrated gently against her side. She remembered the faint, almost imperceptible glow that had drawn her here, the weakest whisper she had ever felt. She sought that same fragility, that same spectral presence within the stone. Slowly, gradually, a feeling began to emerge. It wasn't a sound, not yet. It was a sensation like the gentle unfolding of a dew-kissed petal, or the slow rise of the morning sun. Then a color. A soft, pearlescent white, bleeding into the palest gold. And finally, a resonance. Not a full melody, but a single, pure note, long and drawn out, like the first breath of a new day. It was a note of profound peace, of quiet strength, of nascent hope. It was the whisper of a beginning. Elara opened her eyes, a gasp catching in her throat. She had heard it. Not with her ears, but with her soul. I hear it, she breathed, her voice filled with wonder. A single, clear note, so simple, yet so profound. Now sing it, Whisperer, Lyra urged, her luminous form vibrating with anticipation. Let your voice be the bridge between its slumber and its awakening. Elara took a deep, steadying breath. She focused on that single pure note, letting it resonate within her own being. Then, she opened her mouth and sang. Her voice, usually soft and melodious, now carried a new depth, a new power born of purpose. She sang the note she had heard, a clear, sustained tone that seemed to fill the glade, not with loudness but with presence. It was the purest sound she had ever uttered, imbued with all her hope, all her understanding, all her love for the silent heartwood. As her voice filled the air, something extraordinary happened. The heart gem beneath her hand began to glow, not with its dull inner light, but with a vibrant, radiant brilliance, mirroring the pure note she sang. The light pulsed outward, flowing along the ground like liquid gold, connecting the heart gem to the heartwood tree. And from the heartwood tree itself, a response. A shudder, so subtle it was barely perceptible, passed through its colossal trunk. The faint silver lines on its bark brightened, tracing ancient patterns of energy. And then from one of its highest branches, a single bell-shaped blossom of light, previously silent, chimed. It wasn't a loud chime, but a delicate, crystalline sound, like the first drop of rain after a long drought. Atheria finished her note, her voice fading into the glade's still air. The heart gem continued to glow brightly for a moment, then settled back into a more vibrant, consistent shimmer, as if a small flame had been kindled within it. The single blossom on the heartwood tree continued to chime softly, a gentle, rhythmic sound that was the first true music Atheria had heard in the sunken glade. Lyra, the lumin's spirit, pulsed with a renewed ethereal light. "You have done it, Whisperer. You have awakened the first memory, the first note of the glade's dawn. See how the heartwood stirs, how a new light is born within its silent heart." Atheria looked from the glowing heart gem to the gently chiming blossom on the heartwood tree, a wave of profound relief and exhilaration washing over her. She had done it. She had found a forgotten melody, and she had sung it back to life. But her gaze then swept across the countless other heart gems scattered around the heartwood tree, each one dull, each one holding a silent memory. The task ahead was immense. This was only the very first note in a symphony that spanned ages. Lyra seemed to read her thoughts. "This is but the beginning, Whisperer. There are many more fragments, many more memories to gather. Each one holds a different part of the heartwood song, a different verse of its ancient story. Some will be simple, like this first one. Others will be more complex, woven with intricate harmonies and forgotten emotions. You must listen closely, discern their essence, and lend them your voice." Atheria nodded, her hand still resting on the now brightly glowing heart gem. A profound sense of purpose filled her. The quiet still held the glade in its embrace, but now, a tiny exquisite chime broke its absolute silence. It was a promise, a whisper of hope, a melody waiting to be sung. Her journey was far from over, but she had found the way, and she had taken the first vital step towards bringing the world's song back to life. She looked up at the vast sleeping heartwood, and knew that she was ready for the beautiful, challenging task that lay ahead. She looked up at the vast, sleeping heartwood, and knew that she was ready for the beautiful, challenging task that lay ahead. The chime, born from the heart gem, was no longer just a sound, but a living pulse in her hand, a soft thrumming against her palm that seemed to echo in her very bones. It was a melody without notes, a feeling of gentle insistence, pulling her gaze away from the glade of whispers and towards the colossal, ancient trees that ringed it. This was the heartwood itself, the silent, slumbering core of their world. Taking a deep, hopeful breath, Atheria stepped forward. The moss beneath her bare feet was like a velvet carpet, cool and yielding. As she passed the invisible boundary of the glade, the air shifted. It grew heavier, thicker, imbued with a scent of damp earth, ancient bark, and something else, a faint, almost imperceptible sweetness, like forgotten dreams. The silence here was different from the glade's quietude. It was vast, profound, a stillness so ancient it seemed to hum with untold stories. No bird sang, no leaf rustled, no stream burbled. It was a world holding its breath. The heart gem pulsed with a soft, warm light, casting a gentle, ethereal glow that illuminated the path before her. It wasn't a bright, revealing light, but more like a beacon of inner warmth, highlighting the intricate patterns of bark on the gnarled trunks and the delicate filigree of glowing mosses that clung to the roots. These roots, thick as ancient serpents, snaked across the forest floor, disappearing into the earth like rivers, diving into hidden caverns. The boughs above were like sleeping giants, their branches intertwining to form a dense canopy that allowed only slivers of starlight to pierce through, creating shifting mosaics of light and shadow on the forest floor. Atheria walked, guided by the insistent, gentle tug of the heart gem. Each step felt purposeful, yet also incredibly small in the face of such ancient grandeur. She passed groves of luminous fungi that pulsed with their own soft light, painting the undergrowth in shades of lavender and pale gold. Streams, clear as crystal, flowed silently over polished stones, their waters moving without a ripple or a sound, as if afraid to break the heartwood's slumber. She reached out to touch one, and the water was cool, almost icy, yet vibrant with an unspent energy. Hours passed, or perhaps only moments. Time seemed to lose its meaning in the heartwood. The further she ventured, the more the silence pressed in, a heavy cloak that muffled her own breathing, the soft thump of her heart. Yet, the heart gem's chime grew stronger, a tiny, defiant melody against the overwhelming quiet. It was a promise, a whisper of what could be, urging her onwards. Finally, the heart gem's glow intensified, and its pulling sensation became more insistent, drawing her towards a break in the colossal trees. She emerged into a clearing, but it was unlike any she had ever seen. It was not open to the sky like the glade of whispers. Instead, it was enclosed by towering spires of crystal that seemed to have grown directly from the earth, reaching upwards like frozen geysers. They shimmered faintly, catching the ambient light of the luminous fungi and the heart gem, refracting it into a million tiny rainbows that danced across the clearing floor. In the very center of this crystalline embrace lay a pool of perfectly still water. It was not large, perhaps only wide enough for two people to stand side by side, but its surface was a mirror, reflecting the starlight that managed to filter through the canopy directly above, creating a miniature cosmos within its depths. Yet, like everything else in the Heartwood, it was utterly, profoundly silent. No splash, no gurgle, no gentle lapping against its edges. It was a pool of silence, a liquid hush. As Alara approached, the heart gem in her hand thrummed with heightened urgency. She felt a faint tremor in the air, a whisper that was almost a sigh. And then, she saw it. Hovering just above the surface of the silent pool, barely visible, was a creature of light. It was no larger than her thumb, a shimmering, diaphanous form that pulsed with a faint, almost dying glow. It was so translucent, so ethereal, that it seemed to flicker in and out of existence, like a forgotten memory. Its form was vaguely humanoid, with delicate, moth-like wings that beat with infinite slowness, creating no sound, stirring no air. This was a chime sprite, Alara realized, recognizing the creature from the old tales her grandmother used to tell. They were beings born of sound and light, woven from the purest melodies of the world's song. But this one was dim, disheartened, almost invisible, its light barely a spark against the pervasive silence. As Alara stepped closer, the chime sprite seemed to gather its strength, its faint glow brightening fractionally. It drifted towards her, hovering just before her face, its large, luminous eyes, like tiny dew-kissed pearls, fixed on the heart gem. A faint feeling, like a distant echo, drifted into Alara's mind, a sense of profound sadness, of ancient longing, and then a fragile flicker of hope. The chime sprite communicated not with words, but with shimmering images that formed briefly in Alara's mind, like fleeting dreams. It showed her a vision of this very pool, but vibrant and alive, its surface rippling with golden light, its waters singing with 1,000 tiny melodies, the gentle whisper of leaves, the gentle whisper of leaves, the soft gurgle of unseen springs, the deep thrum of the Heartwood's own steady rhythm. And from the center of the pool, a stone glowed, radiating harmony. Then the vision shifted, fading to silence, to the still dark water she now saw before her. The stone in the vision grew dull, ordinary. The chime sprite then gestured towards the center of the pool. Alara looked, and through the perfectly clear water, she could see a smooth, ovular stone resting on the bottom. It was about the size of her hand, a muted gray, utterly unremarkable. It held no shimmer, no glow, no hint of the vibrant life the sprite had shown her. This, she understood, was the voice stone, a focal point, a receiver and amplifier of the world's song, now dormant, silent. The chime sprite, with another mental image, conveyed that the voice stone needed to be reawakened. It needed the resonance of the heart gem, yes, but also a deeper connection. It needed ein song. Her song. Alara felt a sudden tremor of apprehension. My song, she thought, a silent question directed at the sprite. She wasn't a singer. Her voice was quiet, often lost in the bustling market of her village before the great silence. How could she, Alara, bring forth a song powerful enough to awaken this ancient stone? The chime sprite seemed to sense her doubt. It pulsed a little brighter, and the feeling it projected into her mind was one of gentle encouragement, of profound belief. It wasn't about perfect notes or a grand aria, the images conveyed, but about intent, about the pure, heartfelt desire to bring the song back. The world's song was not just music, it was life, harmony, the very essence of existence. Her longing for it, her purpose, Bedtime was her song. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Alara knelt by the edge of the pool. The crystal spires hummed faintly around her, a latent energy waiting to be stirred. The heart gem warmed in her hand, its chime now a steady, confident beat, a rhythm of hope. She extended her arm, placing the heart gem gently onto the surface of the voice stone, which lay nestled beneath the perfectly still water. The moment the heart gem touched the gray stone, a faint ripple spread across the pool's surface, the first disturbance in its long slumber. The heart gem pulsed with a soft inner light, its golden glow suffusing the gray voice stone. But it wasn't enough. The voice stone remained dull, merely reflecting the borrowed light. Alara closed her eyes, focusing. She let the feeling of the heart gem's chime resonate within her. She thought of the glade of whispers, of the silent world, of the memory of birdsong and laughter that her grandmother had shared. She thought of her purpose, the beautiful, challenging task ahead. A profound longing filled her, a deep, yearning wish for the world to sing again. And then, she hummed. It was tentative at first, a soft, almost inaudible sound, a mere breath. It was not a practiced melody, but an intuitive one, a simple, pure note born from her heart. She focused all her intent, all her hope, into that sound. As her hum continued, the heart gem began to glow more intensely, its light a golden beacon through the water. And then, miraculously, the voice stone beneath it began to respond. A faint silver light bloomed within its gray depths, growing, expanding, pushing back against the dullness. The ripple on the pool's surface intensified, spreading outwards in concentric circles. Alara's hum grew stronger, more confident, flowing from her with an ease she hadn't known she possessed. The silver light within the voice stone brightened, shimmering, until it began to emit a soft ethereal music. It wasn't loud or grand, but a delicate, intricate melody, the sound of water gently flowing, of unseen leaves rustling in a breeze, the deep, ancient hum of the earth itself. It was the natural, fundamental song of this corner of the Heartwood, a fragment of the world's song, brought back to life. As the music rose from the pool, the crystal spires enclosing the clearing began to resonate, emitting their own faint, harmonious chimes, creating a delicate symphony of light and sound. The luminous fungi around the clearing pulsed brighter, casting vibrant hues across the crystalline walls. And the chime sprite. It had been fluttering beside Alara, a faint, hopeful presence. Now as the music filled the air, it transformed. Its light brightened exponentially, becoming a brilliant, iridescent spark. Its wings, once slow and heavy, beat with joyous speed, creating tiny tinkling sounds that wove themselves into the rising melody. It danced, a beacon of pure delight, swirling and diving above the now singing pool, its form becoming clearer, more vibrant, its tiny, luminous eyes sparkling with unadulterated joy. It was Lyra, Alara realized, recognizing the name the sprite projected into her mind. Lyra. The spirit of this place's lost music, now reborn. Alara felt a surge of warmth and profound satisfaction. The heart gem in her hand thrummed with a stronger, more confident chime, its light steady and unwavering. She had done it. She had taken the first step. She had sung a part of the world's song back to life. Lyra, now vibrant and alive, whirled around Alara, projecting clearer images and feelings into her mind. It showed her that this echoing pool was but one of many nodes of resonance scattered throughout the vast Heartwood. Each one, a crucial part of the greater symphony, now lay silent, waiting for the heart gem's touch and a song of pure intent to reawaken it. The heart gem, as if it understood Lyra's message, began to pull Alara in a new direction. Its chime, now stronger and more resonant, pulsed towards a different part of the dense, silent forest. Lyra, though it could not leave the now singing pool, its home, projected a final clear image into Alara's mind, a vision of ancient weeping boughs, and a whisper that felt like a gentle breeze. Seek the weeping willow's tears, where the whispering winds sleep. Alara understood. Her journey was a tapestry of reawakenings, each small song she restored adding to the greater, slumbering symphony. She thanked Lyra, who shimmered with gratitude, now a radiant guardian of its reawakened pool. With a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper connection to the magic of the world, and the heart gem glowing steadily, guiding her, Elara turned and walked towards the vast ancient silence of the Heartwood, knowing there were many more songs waiting to be sung, many more journeys waiting to unfold. The beautiful, challenging task stretched out before her, and she was ready for every step. The Heartwood rose before her, a colossal wall of ancient life, its canopy a distant, emerald ceiling against the pale sky. Unlike the vibrant, singing forest she had just left, the Heartwood was steeped in a profound, almost reverent silence. Here, the air was thicker, cooler, scented with damp earth, aged bark, and something else, a deep, resonant stillness that seemed to absorb all sound. Sunlight filtered through the dense foliage in scattered, luminous shafts, painting shifting patterns on the moss-covered ground. Each tree was a titan, their trunks gnarled and vast, adorned with intricate tapestries of lichen and ivy. Roots, thick as an anaconda, snaked across the forest floor, interlocking like an ancient, forgotten script. There were no chirping birds, no rustling leaves, no chattering squirrels. Only the quiet, rhythmic pulse of her own heart, and the steady, warm glow of the heart gem at her chest. Elara took a deep breath, letting the ancient quiet wash over her. It wasn't an empty silence, but one pregnant with history, with untold stories and forgotten songs. She felt small, a mere whisper in this colossal cathedral of nature, yet the heart gem pulsed with an encouraging warmth, a gentle thrum against her skin, reminding her of the purpose that had brought her here. She stepped beneath the towering boughs and the world shifted. The air grew heavier, as if carrying the weight of centuries. The path, barely discernible, wound through monumental root systems and around trunks wider than any house. The heart gem, which had been a steady beacon, now began to flicker with subtle variations in its light, pointing not with a beam, but with a subtle pull, a magnetic whisper towards a particular direction. Her journey into the Heartwood was a meditation in itself. Days blurred into a rhythm of walking, listening, and feeling. She learned to read the subtle cues of the forest, the faintest shimmering of energy in a patch of moss, the almost imperceptible hum that emanated from certain roots, the way the light seemed to bend around ancient stones. She ate berries and nuts she recognized, drank from clear, silent streams that tasted of pure earth and starlight, and slept nestled against the warm, rough bark of gentle trees, guided by the heart gem's unwavering glow. As she ventured deeper, the silence began to feel less like reverence and more like a profound slumber, a deep, weary sleep. The magic, though undeniably present, felt muted, like music played behind thick walls. She saw ancient creatures, moss-covered stags with antlers like gnarled branches, owls with eyes like amber pools, silent foxes with coats the color of autumn leaves. But they moved with a slow, almost dreamlike grace, their usual vibrancy dulled. It was as if the Heartwood itself was holding its breath, waiting. Then, after what felt like an eternity of quiet wandering, the heart gem flared with a sudden, urgent brilliance. Its light pulsed, faster and stronger, guiding her off the barely there path and deeper into a grove of truly immense, truly ancient trees. Here, the air was even heavier, laden with a sense of profound age and a subtle melancholic ache. And there it was. The first true heart tree. It was unlike any tree she had ever seen. Its trunk was so vast it would take a dozen people linking hands to encircle it. Its branches, thicker than ordinary trees, reached skyward like arms yearning for a forgotten embrace. But what truly set it apart was the shimmering, almost iridescent quality of its bark, a faint ethereal glow that pulsed with a slow, irregular beat, like a struggling heart. Yet, despite this inner light, the tree itself seemed to droop. Its leaves, though still green, were tinged with a faint, silvery dust, and some of its outermost branches were brittle, snapped, or devoid of foliage entirely. A faint, almost imperceptible sigh seemed to emanate from its immense form. Elara approached with reverence, her hand instinctively rising to the heart gem. It beat in sync with the tree's faint pulse, a shared rhythm of longing. She pressed her palm against the ancient bark, and a wave of profound weariness washed over her. She felt its memories, centuries of growth, seasons of joy, moments of connection to other trees, but all overlaid with a deep encroaching lethargy, a slow fading. "Oh, mighty one," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the vast silence. "What ails you?" The heart gem thrummed, urging her. She knew what she had to do. Closing her eyes, she focused, letting the connection between herself, the gem, and the tree deepen. She felt the blockage, a subtle impedance in the flow of its lifeblood, a knot of forgotten joy, a silence that had grown too heavy. This tree wasn't sick in the way a creature was sick. It was simply tired, its song muted by the long, quiet vigil it had kept. She began to sing. Her voice at first was a soft hum, a gentle vibration against the bark. It carried the pure, cleansing energy of the heart gem, and the newfound understanding she had gained from Lyra's pool. She sang of the resilience of roots, the reach of branches, the whisper of leaves in the wind. She sang of sunlight and rain, of the earth's deep embrace, of the endless cycle of life and renewal. The song wove itself around the tree, a shimmering, invisible tapestry of sound. The faint, irregular pulse of the heart tree began to steady, to strengthen. The silvery dust on its leaves shimmered, then dissolved, revealing a vibrant emerald green beneath. Where branches had been brittle, new, tender shoots began to unfurl, pushing through the ancient wood with startling speed. As her song swelled, the tree responded. A deep, resonant hum began to emanate from its core, joining her voice in a powerful, harmonious duet. The air around them sparkled with golden motes of light, tiny sparks of reawakened magic. The glow of the heart gem intensified, bathing the entire grove in a warm, golden light. Finally, with a triumphant crescendo, Elara's song reached its peak, and the heart tree let out a magnificent, silent bloom of energy. Its bark glowed with a steady, vibrant light, and from its uppermost branches, tiny, luminous flowers unfurled, each one pulsing with a soft inner light. The faint sigh of weariness was replaced by a deep, contented breath, and the surrounding trees seemed to stir, their leaves rustling with a renewed, gentle whisper. A small, shimmering figure, no bigger than her thumb, detached itself from the blooming flowers. It was a sprite, fashioned from pure light and delicate petals, its tiny wings beating like a hummingbird's. It circled Elara's head once, emitting a chime like tiny bells, a sound of pure gratitude, before settling among the newly vibrant leaves, its presence a testament to the tree's reawakened joy. Elara smiled, tears stinging her eyes. The profound ache in the air had lessened, replaced by a sense of calm, of quiet strength. She had sung the tree awake. With renewed vigor and a heart brimming with hope, Elara continued her journey. The heart gem, now a constant bright beacon, led her deeper into the heartwood. She discovered other heart trees, each with its unique ailment, its own silent plea. One tree was shrouded in a mist of forgotten dreams, its branches heavy with slumber. Elara sang of remembrance, of cherished moments, of the beauty of dreams, both waking and sleeping. As her voice resonated, the mist dissolved into shimmering dew, and the tree's leaves unfurled, revealing intricate patterns like forgotten memories made manifest. From its revitalized canopy, tiny dreamweavers, luminous moths with wings like stained glass, fluttered forth, ready to carry gentle dreams across the world. Another heart tree was consumed by a deep, ancient sorrow, its roots weeping a slow, dark sap. This was the hardest. Elara felt its pain, centuries of loss and regret, the burden of witnessing countless seasons of decline. She didn't try to dispel the sorrow, but instead sang of understanding, of compassion, of the transformative power of acceptance. She sang of how even tears can nourish the earth, how loss can lead to new growth. Her voice was gentle, a lullaby of empathy, and slowly, the dark sap transformed into clear, sparkling water, nourishing the ground around it. The tree, no longer weighed down, stood taller, its bark gaining a rich, deep hue, and from its branches, faint, hauntingly beautiful melodies began to drift on the air, sounds of deep peace and quiet wisdom. With each restoration, Elara felt her own connection to the heartwood deepen. Her voice grew stronger, more resonant, able to carry more complex emotions and intentions. The heart gem seemed to merge with her essence, its light a steady warmth within her own spirit. She learned to listen not just with her ears, but with her entire being, discerning the subtle frequencies of the forest's hidden magic. The quiet animals of the heartwood, once so distant, now watched her with curious, knowing eyes, sometimes even accompanying her for short stretches, as if drawn by the vibrant song she carried. But as she ventured further, a new sensation began to creep into the edges of her awareness. A subtle chill, a faint dissonance beneath the profound silence. It wasn't a malicious presence, but rather an absence, a growing void that seemed to drain warmth and color from the very air. The heart gem, which had been so steadily bright, began to flicker with a subtle, anxious pulse whenever this sensation grew stronger. It felt like a vast, cold indifference, a place where all song was forgotten, all magic stilled. This, she realized, must be the source of the heartwood's deep slumber, the root of the widespread muting. The trees here were not merely tired or sad, they were profoundly still, their forms almost ghost-like, their energy barely a whisper. Their bark was pale, almost bleached, and their branches were skeletal, reaching out like frozen specters. The ground beneath them was barren, devoid of moss or fern, covered in a fine silver dust that seemed to absorb all light. The heart gem pulsed with an increasing urgency, guiding her towards the very heart of this profound stillness. The air grew colder, and a deep, pervasive quiet settled, a silence so absolute it felt like a pressure against her eardrums. She felt a profound loneliness emanating from this place, a sense of magic withdrawn, of life held in perpetual suspension. Finally, she arrived. Before her stood the great heart tree, the ancient, central pillar of the entire heartwood, perhaps even the world. It was a being of such immense scale and age that it defied description. Its roots plunged deep into the earth, its crown touched the highest reaches of the sky, but unlike the other heart trees she had revitalized, this one was not merely ailing. It was utterly, profoundly dormant. It stood like a petrified giant, its colossal trunk a mottled gray, devoid of any light or life. Its branches were immense, frozen gestures, covered in the same silvery dust that coated the ground, sparkling faintly but with a cold, dead light. There were no leaves, no flowers, no signs of life whatsoever. The great heart tree was not sleeping. It was in a state of suspended animation, a profound, ancient stasis. And from its very core emanated the pervasive chill, the absolute silence, the vast indifference that had been seeping through the heartwood. It wasn't an evil force, but a profound state of unbeing, a forgotten emptiness that had settled over the heart of magic itself. It was the absence of song, the forgetting of connection, a deep, ancient sigh of resignation that had grown into a suffocating shroud. Elara felt her own heart clench with a pang of despair. This was a challenge far greater than any she had faced. The heart gem at her chest beat frantically, its light struggling against the overwhelming cold. She placed her hand on the great tree's colossal trunk and felt nothing. No faint pulse, no lingering memory, no whisper of life. Only the profound, unyielding cold, a vast, silent void. "How can I sing to something that has forgotten how to listen?" she whispered, her voice trembling in the absolute quiet. But then, a memory stirred. Lyra, the spring spirit, shimmering with gratitude. The deep, ancient sorrow of the weeping tree, transformed not by being dispelled, but by being understooding. The heart gem pulsed with renewed determination, a small but fiercely burning ember against the encroaching chill. It reminded her that even in the deepest silence, there is a seed of potential, a dormant spark waiting to be reignited. She closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath of the cold, still air. She centered herself, connecting to the magic within her, to the unwavering light of the heart gem. She reached out, not to the tree, but why through the tree, seeking the faintest echo of its original purpose, its forgotten song. And she began to sing. Her voice at first was small, almost lost in the vastness of the silence. It was a note of pure, unwavering hope, a simple, clear tone that carried the essence of every song she had ever sung, every life she had touched. She didn't try to force the tree awake. Instead, she sang into the silence, acknowledging its depth, its profound stillness. She sang of the beauty of rest, the necessity of quiet, but also of the gentle awakening that follows. The silence, immense and unyielding, seemed to push back, absorbing her song, trying to snuff it out. The cold intensified, a wave of profound apathy washing over her. Doubt crept in, a serpent of despair whispering that this was too big, too old, too lost. But Elara held fast, her connection to the heart gem unwavering, its light a shield against the encroaching emptiness. She sang of the first sunrise, the first bloom, the first whisper of wind through nascent leaves. She sang of the joy of creation, the thrill of growth, the intricate dance of life and death. She poured all her understanding of the world's interconnectedness into her voice, the way a single drop of water affects the ocean, the way one note can create a symphony. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, something shifted. The silvery dust on the great tree's bark seemed to shimmer with a different light, not cold, but reflective, as if absorbing her song. The pervasive chill lessened, just a fraction, allowing her to breathe a little easier. Encouraged, Elara's song grew. It was no longer just her voice. It was the chorus of the entire heartwood, the whispers of the reawakened trees, the laughter of the sprites, the gentle hum of the dream weavers, the sorrowful wisdom of the weeping tree, all flowing through her, amplified by the heart gem. Her song became a river of pure, vibrant magic, weaving its way through the petrified silence, seeking the hidden springs of life within the great tree. She sang of the future, of the children yet to be born, of the songs yet to be sung, of the endless possibilities of a world vibrant and alive. Her voice swelled with the promise of renewal, the unstoppable force of life's eternal dance. The heart gem pulsed with an almost blinding intensity, its light merging with her, making her a conduit for the very heart of the world's magic. And then, it happened. A faint deep thrum, like the lowest note of a colossal organ, vibrated through the ground. It was the first sign of life, a deep, ancient pulse that began to beat within the great heart tree. The silvery dust on its bark began to crackle and flake away, revealing glimpses of a rich, vibrant green beneath. The thrum grew stronger, echoing through the heartwood, a slow, majestic beat that resonated in Elara's own chest. The entire colossal form of the great tree began to tremble, not with fear, but with the immense effort of reawakening. The massive branches, once skeletal, began to soften, to swell. Tiny nascent buds appeared, then unfurled with breathtaking speed, revealing leaves of a brilliant shimmering emerald. As the leaves emerged, they began to glow, each one a tiny lantern of pure, vibrant energy. The glow spread, cascading down the branches, illuminating the entire heartwood in a breathtaking display of light and life. The pervasive cold vanished, replaced by a warmth that felt like a loving embrace, a return to comfort. The absolute silence was shattered, not by noise, but by a symphony of gentle whispers, rustles, and soft hums, the myriad sounds of a world coming back to life. From the very heart of the great heart tree, a luminous golden light erupted, spiraling upwards, piercing the canopy and reaching for the sky. It was the heartwood's song, finally unleashed, a beacon of magic and life resonating throughout the entire world. Elara, bathed in this glorious light, felt an overwhelming sense of peace and completion. The heart gem, now glowing with an unparalleled brilliance, gently detached itself from her chest. It didn't fall, but floated upwards slowly, majestically, towards the heart of the great tree. There it settled, not dissolving but merging, becoming the radiant core of the reawakened giant, its eternal flame now visible through the shimmering bark. The great heart tree, now fully alive, was a sight of unimaginable beauty. Its leaves shimmered with all the colors of the forest, its bark glowed with an inner fire, and from its vast branches flowers of pure light bloomed, each one a miniature sun. The air around it vibrated with a profound, harmonious hum, a song that encompassed all creation, a melody of interconnectedness and vibrant life. Elara felt changed. The journey had woven itself into the very fabric of her being. She was no longer just Elara, the girl who could sing. She was Elara, the songbringer, a living conduit of the world's magic, her voice a bridge between the unseen and the seen. Her heart sang with a joy so profound, it felt as if it could lift her off the ground. She turned, looking back through the revitalized heartwood. The other heart trees she had awakened now shone with their full brilliance, their unique songs weaving into the grand symphony of the great tree. The forest animals moved with renewed vitality, their eyes bright with curiosity and wonder. The silence was gone, replaced by a gentle, harmonious hum of life, a quiet celebration. Her task was complete. The heartwood was awake, its magic flowing freely, rejuvenating the world. The heart gem had found its true home, anchoring the heartwood's song for all eternity. Elara knew her journey wasn't truly over. The world was vast, and there would always be new songs to learn, new connections to forge, new pockets of silence waiting for a gentle melody. But for now, a deep, satisfying peace settled within her. She had answered the call of the world, and in doing so had found her truest self. With a final loving glance at the magnificent great heart tree, its light now a permanent guiding star within the heartwood, Atheria turned. She walked back through the now vibrant forest, her steps light, her heart full, her own song a quiet joyful hum beneath her breath. The path ahead was open, filled with the promise of new adventures, but she carried with her the deep resonance of the heartwood, the memory of its awakening, and the knowledge that the world, in all its magical wonder, was forever singing, and she, Atheria, was forever a part of its beautiful unending melody. She was ready to listen, ready to learn, and ready to sing, for as long as the stars shone and the world breathed.